Department of Archaeology, Durham University, and UNESCO Chair in Archaeological Ethics and Practice in Cultural Heritage. Welcome, sir. Professor Vasant Shinde, former professor and Vice Chancellor at the Deccan College, past graduate and Research Institute, India. Welcome, sir. Shri Pankaj Sharma, Director, Archaeology and Museum. Welcome, sir. We extend a warm welcome to all the esteemed dignitaries on the dais. It is indeed our pleasure to have such esteemed dignitaries on the august occasion, and we are eager to felicitate the esteemed dignitaries. Foremost, I request Principal Secretary, Youth and Culture Department, Shri Ashwini Kumar, to kindly welcome Shri Pankaj Kumar, IS, Chief Secretary, Government of Gujarat. Thank you so much. Now I request Shri Pankaj Kumar, Director, Archaeology and Museum, to kindly welcome Srimati V. Vidyavati, IAS, Director General, Archaeological Survey of India. Thank you very much. I now request Shri P.R. Joshi, Commissioner, Youth and Cultural Department, to kindly felicitate Professor Amreswar Galla, UNESCO Chair, Inclusive Museums and Sustainable Heritage Development, Mentor, Anand National University. Thank you so much. I now request Shri R.D. Bhatt, Secretary, Sports Authority of Gujarat, to welcome Professor Robin Cunningham, Department of Archaeology, Durham University, and UNESCO Chair in Archaeological Ethics and Practice in Cultural Heritage. Thank you so much. I now request Shri Jayendra Singh Jadhav, the Member Secretary, Gujarat Sahitya Akademi, to welcome Professor Vasant Shinde, former Professor and Vice Chancellor at the Deccan College, Pune. Thank you, everyone, and once again, a warm welcome. I now request Shri Ashwini Kumar, Principal Secretary, Sports, Youth and Cultural Activities Department, Government of Gujarat, for the welcome address.
वडनगर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन के समापन सत्र के अवसर पर मंच पर उपस्थित गुजरात के सम्मानीय मुख्य सचिव श्री पंकज कुमार सर, एएसआई की महानिदेशक श्रीमती वी विद्यावती जी, यूनेस्को चेयर प्रोफेसर अमरेश्वर गाला जी, प्रोफेसर रॉबिन कॉनिंगम, प्रोफेसर वसंत शिंदे जी, श्री पंकज शर्मा जी, और आज बड़ी संख्या में इस समापन सत्र में आए हुए गुजरात वडनगर से पधारे हुए सभी मेरे प्रिय भाई बहन, आप सबका इस त्रिदिवसीय वडनगर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन के समापन सत्र में मैं गुजरात सरकार की तरफ से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूँ। भारत के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की दूरदृष्टि और प्रेरणा से वडनगर में उत्खनन का कार्य पिछले 1 दशक से भी अधिक समय से निरंतर किया जा रहा है, और इस उत्खनन में हमें एक नगरीय और विकसित सभ्यता के दर्शन देखने को मिले। अनेकता में एकता, सभी धर्मों और विचारों के प्रति सहिष्णुता, और वसुधैव कुटुंबकम के आदर्शों से संचालित भारत की सनातन संस्कृति की पावन भूमि ये वडनगरी है। पिछले 3 दिनों के दौरान जिस तरह की चर्चाएं इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन में हुई वो अद्वितीय है। मुझे अनौपचारिक रूप से पिछले 3 दिनों में अपने अपने क्षेत्र के विद्वत वक्ताओं, भारत के विभिन्न भागों से आए हुए प्रतिनिधिगण और व्यवस्था से जुड़े हुए लोगों के साथ विचार विमर्श करने का अवसर मिला। मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है कि सम्मेलन के आयोजन और व्यवस्थापन से प्रायः सभी लोग संपूर्ण रूप से संतुष्ट पाए गए। वडनगर के धार्मिक, सामाजिक, सांस्कृतिक, व्यापारिक और पुरातात्विक महत्व को सभी ने समझा है और सराहा है। इस सम्मेलन ने पुरातात्विक महत्व के शहरों को समझने के लिए एक नई दृष्टि भी दी। हमारे माननीय मुख्य सचिव श्री पंकज कुमार सर और माननीय संस्कृति सचिव भारत सरकार श्री गोविंद मोहन सर के सतत मार्गदर्शन के कारण एक महत्वपूर्ण और भव्य अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन के आयोजन में हमें सफलता मिली। इस आयोजन के द्वारा हम लोग वडनगर को विश्व के मानचित्र पर रखने में सफल होते हुए दिख रहे हैं। 2500 सालों की अनवरत, अतूट और विकसित सभ्यता और संस्कृति का केंद्र गुजरात का वडनगर निश्चय ही इस विशिष्ट सम्मान का अधिकारी भी है। यह हमारा सौभाग्य रहा कि भव्य उद्घाटन सत्र में हमें गुजरात के आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री भूपेंद्र पटेल जी और भारत की माननीय संस्कृति राज्य मंत्री श्रीमती मीनाक्षी लेखी जी का मार्गदर्शन प्राप्त हुआ। गुजरात के युवा और प्रभावशाली गृह और संस्कृति मंत्री श्री हर्ष संघवी जी ने लगातार हमें प्रोत्साहन दिया और नेटवर्किंग डिनर के होस्ट भी बने। श्री एरिक फॉल्ट, श्री गाला जी, श्री सिंधे जी, श्री रावत जी, श्री अभिजीत आम्बेडकर जी, डॉक्टर आलोक त्रिपाठी जी, श्री रमेश ओझा जी, श्री मार्गी हाथी जी, श्री भाग्येश झा जी, श्री सोनवणे जी सहित कई बड़े नाम इस आयोजन में, इस सम्मेलन में हमसे जुड़े और ये हमारा सौभाग्य है कि इनकी भागीदारी से यह सम्मेलन संपूर्ण रूप से सफल रहा है। BHU, IIT गांधीनगर, गुजरात यूनिवर्सिटी, सेफ्ट यूनिवर्सिटी, अनंत नेशनल यूनिवर्सिटी, MS यूनिवर्सिटी, अहमदाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी, डेक्कन कॉलेज सहित कई कॉलेज और यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर्स और रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स ने इस सम्मेलन में बढ़ चढ़ कर हिस्सा लिया। इसके लिए मैं उन्हें धन्यवाद भी देता हूं और उनका आभार भी व्यक्त करता हूं। I express my sincere gratitude to my Chief Secretary, Secretary Culture Government of India, UNESCO, all my head of departments, Ernst & Young team, Deloitte team, my colleagues in the department, all speakers who have come all across the globe to grace the occasion, ASI, SCOM Media, who is responsible for organizing, supporting us in the event, and everyone who has helped us in organizing such a thought-provoking and immensely useful international conference at Vadnagar. अंत में एक बार फिर मैं मंचस्थ सभी महानुभावों, आज के कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित सभी गणमान्य अतिथियों, प्रेस और मीडिया के मेरे मित्रों और सभी उपस्थित गुणीजनों का एक बार फिर से स्वागत करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
आपके ऊष्मापूर्ण स्वागत शब्दों के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। Vadnagar International Conference, which was organized by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India and Sports, Youth and Cultural Activities Department of Gujarat. It was definitely first of its kind event which completely and thoroughly focused on the true treasure of our India. भारत देश और गुजरात की संस्कृति और इतिहास जानने लायक, समझने लायक और आगे की पीढ़ी के लिए धरोहर के रूप में देने लायक है। इसी बात को इस 3 दिवसीय कॉन्फ्रेंस में समझाया गया। Let's see few glimpses of this film. Excellent. गुजरात संस्कृति पुरातन स्थल कला का अखोट भंडार है। यहाँ सदियों का इतिहास अभी भी संजो के रखा गया है, क्योंकि यह इतिहास गुजरात की आन बान और शान है। इसी के उपलक्ष्य में आज विविध यूनिवर्सिटीज एवं गुजरात सरकार कुछ महत्व के MOUs एक्सचेंज करने जा रहे हैं, जिससे इस गरिमापूर्ण वडनगर इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस की महत्ता आगे के वर्षों में बनी रहेगी। लोग सीखें, सिखाएं और ये धरोहर को जग विख्यात बनाएं। This will definitely be of great importance for the experts, researchers, students and many others, because the rich heritage of Gujarat will be highlighted to the world on larger scale. For the foremost MOU exchange, we would like to welcome Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Srivastava, Vice Chancellor, MS University, Baroda. On behalf of Government of Gujarat, Dr. Pankaj Sharma will exchange all the MOUs with respective universities. Sectoral focus. The parties would focus on mandates on the following sectors: field archaeology, explorations and excavations, cultural heritage studies, heritage conservation, artifact documentation and analysis, workshops, synopsiums and conference. Congratulations to the MS University and Government of Gujarat. For second MOU, we call upon Shri Darshan Parikh, Director, CRDF, CEPT University. Nature of the mandate: the parties would have a focus on the mandates in the following sector: documentation of state-protected monuments and archaeological sites, which will include preparing drawings of the site and its surroundings as it is found, including the State of Conservation Report. Congratulations to both CEPT University and Government of Gujarat. For next MOU, we call upon Professor Ionis Paulus, Associate Professor at the CHM Anant University, Ahmedabad University, CHM, Professor Ionis Paulus. It will focus on living heritage, tourism management and development, regeneration, museums, any other sector as mutually agreed. Congratulations to Ahmedabad University and also Government of Gujarat. We would now like to call upon Dr. Sharad Gupta, Associate Professor at IIT Gandhinagar. The archaeological sciences, archaeological explorations and excavations, heritage management, cultural activities relevant to historical and cultural environments will be taken care of. Congratulations to IIT Gandhinagar and Government of Gujarat. For the next MOU, we would like to call upon Dr. Anunaya, Provost, ANU. Dr. Anunaya Chaube, congratulations for the MOU. And we extend best wishes. Thank you. For the next MOU, would like to call Professor Shashank Ganvir, Assistant Professor, Deccan College, Pune. It will take care of sciences in archaeology, numismatics, epigraphy, cultural archaeological, art and architecture. Congratulations. For the last but not the least MOU, we would like to call Professor Suman Jain, Professor and HOD, Banaras Hindu University. They will take care of archaeology, art and architecture, paleography, epigraphy, numismatics, religion, conservation, preservation and scientific studies, documentation, exhibition, educational activities, seminars and collective programs. Congratulations to Banaras Hindu University and Government of Gujarat. Can we have a big round of for all the universities and Government of Gujarat for signing this wonderful MOUs, which will definitely highlight our ancient culture on the world map. Thank you so much. I now welcome Professor Vasant Shinde, former professor and vice chancellor of Deccan College, to kindly share with us the important learnings and takeaway of this exclusive conference. Over to you, sir.
Namaste to all. The very distinguished dais, Pankaj Kumarji, Vidyavati ji, the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, Ashwini Kumarji, my friend Amresh Galla, another friend Robin Cunningham, Dr. Pankaj Sharma, my peers, friends, the villagers from Vadnagar, media, and my dear students. I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy to share the gist of the seminar that happened here. All of you know that this was a very important event on behalf of the Minister of Culture, Government of India, and also on behalf of the Government of Gujarat, because this is a part of the celebration of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and it was really truly a tribute to the nation, which was a very important event. So in this, we had a lot of presentations. Let me tell you that excavations were carried out first by MS University of Baroda, then the Department of Archaeology, Government of Gujarat, and presently the Archaeological Survey of India is conducting the excavation at Vadnagar. And because of their works, the site of Vadnagar is now firmly placed on the heritage map of the world. So we are really happy about this. I'm also happy that there are the villagers who are participating here, and they are enthusiastically taking part not only in the maybe in the awareness program, but also in the protection and the preservation of the heritage, which is very, very important. The presentations happened here. They were divided into 6 sessions. And most of the aspects of the Buddhism at Vadnagar, and also in general in Gujarat, they were covered. We also were given the glimpses of the excavations carried out first by the Gujarat government. Dr. Rawat has given us a complete gist of that. And then Abhijit Ambekar, he also gave us gist about the work that is happening on behalf of the Archaeological Survey of India at this particular site. Also, it was demonstrated or presented on the basis of evidence that Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism, they coexisted and they flourished together. They all have contributed to the development of this particular place and other places in Gujarat. A lot of scientific evidence was also discussed in this, particularly the paleobotanical evidence, the environmental aspect, the archaeozoological aspect, and also today also we had a very good presentation by Prabhakar and others on the application of the latest geophysical methods. And Dr. Robin Cunningham, Krishnan, they have shown in fact how these methodologies are so important. In fact, I agree with Robin that all the excavations are destruction unless they are properly documented and published. And in this respect, I feel that in the 21st century, I think we have to minimize the archaeological excavations and focus more on the application of the geophysical methods and GPR and other methods, LIDAR, etc. They are so useful. And by applying these methods, certainly we are able to get most of the information that is there in fact hidden at the site without without destroying the site. And for this also, we don't really need a lot of funding and a lot of collaboration. So from that point of view, this is very, very important. I also agree with Robin that because of the application of the geophysical methods, we are able to choose the right spot for the excavation, because there are sites which are quite extensive, and sometimes we do not get direction as to where to start the excavation. So here, this gives us some kind of control, and we are able to identify different activity areas even without the excavation. So this is very, very important presentation that happened here. Perhaps there's a lot to learn. In fact, we can apply most of the technologies, methodologies discussed here for a number of other sites in the country, I'm sure that the young generation particularly, they are now getting familiar with this, and this will be really useful for everyone. So there was also presentation on the water harvesting, water management, and it was mentioned that the beginning here in Gujarat, in a sense, in India goes back to the Harappan times, and there was a mention about the site of Dholavira, which has got perhaps the world's best, water harvesting and water management system. And then from there, of course, it has continued till today. And also, it was demonstrated how this water management system was so useful, not only for the sustainable purpose, but also for the development at the site of Vadnagar. So that was very, very, important, topic discussed. Also, there was a discussion on the water museum, which is a very, very important concept. And I was happy, and perhaps everybody must have been happy about that. So these are also discussed, on various crafts, manufacturing, particularly the, presentations on bead and bangle manufacturing by Alok. They're very, very interesting, and they have given us some new insight, not only about the technology, but also about, the widespread, contact network, trade network, etc. So these are some of the important, highlights of the excavation. So the takeaway from this particular from this particular exercise is that we have now now we can claim that Vadnagar was a very, very important hub for the manufacturing purpose and also a hub of a trade, and that existed for almost from 2nd century BCE to almost the present time. So this was a very, very important takeaway from this. Then also Rawatji has discussed that they have found, even Abhijit has mentioned, that they have found Buddhist monasteries in the settlement. And I fully agree that that perhaps we have to give different maybe interpretation for that. And Rawatji had come up with the idea of a nunnery, which is very, very important hypothesis. But my suggestion that before we jump into conclusion, we have to study the context properly. If it is a nunnery, we might find maybe the objects associated with the female boar in that particular area. Also, we also need to study this particular site. Number of scholars have also emphasized that any archaeological site, including Vadnagar, now that should be studied not in isolation, but in connection with other sites. And Vadnagar had contacts with with different places in the country or in South Asia. So we need to really understand the contemporary developments in that region also, so that we can be able to talk about the holistic maybe contribution of Vadnagar in that respect. So this is also very important takeaway. Then I would like to mention the Taranga Buddhist Center, very close to the site of Vadnagar. And, this, the State Department, ASI, they have done wonderful work, in fact, in this, at this particular site. And that site is being protected now. But what I feel that, that this is a very, very important discovery, because, we talk about, Buddhist monasteries, and, maybe we study the rock art caves, and those caves were for the Buddhist monks. But there's a sect, in fact, Ganvir has mentioned about, the Vasavasa, or the Varshavas, or people, or the monks who stayed away in jungle. And we always draw, in fact, parallel with the Rajgala in Sri Lanka. In fact, I led the team from India. And there, we have found that, Sri Lanka, Rajgala and Taranga, they're exactly same, same setting and same kind of evidence. So from that point of view also, this is very, very important takeaway. Very important, part that was not really discussed in great detail is the contextual archaeology. If you really want to understand the context of each and every object found, if you want to understand the function, then you need to understand the context, maybe in relation to the structures, in relation to the site, in relation to other objects, and then only perhaps these objects will start talking. Otherwise, they will remain mute. And in this connection, in fact, if you want to understand the nunneries there, maybe the context is going to be very, very useful. So what needs to be done further, in fact, in case of research at Vadnagar and the surrounding area? I find that, when I visited the site many times, and this is a very, very complex site. It is not really easy to understand because there are 7 cultural phases here. And if you want to understand the site holistically, you need to undertake very extensive site formation process. And I'm sure that the Abhijit from ASI will do this work further. Then other important field in which we have to make some efforts is that we have to properly synthesize the archaeological and literary sources. Unless we do that, perhaps the true history perhaps will not be brought out. If these sources are studied in isolation, perhaps we might get some different history. But if they are studied in maybe proper synthesized way, perhaps we will be able to get proper history or the holistic or the authentic history of the site. Also, we need to apply more, in fact. The excavation that has happened, I think my suggestion that we should stop there because we have excavated enough area. Now, further, in fact, you apply more, in fact, geophysical methods and try to understand the complete history of the site. What are the structural remains in different phases by applying the geophysical methods? That needs to be done. Secondly, the vast data that is generated, now that needs to be properly published in the form of reports. And I'm sure that Rawatji and Abhijit, they will take this task very seriously. And I'm extremely happy that there are different organizations, universities, departments who are associated with this particular work. I think with their support, I'm sure that the complete report will be available for the site. Also, there was discussion about the museums, how the museums should be developed in this part. I think we have some very, very interesting presentation. My suggestion that, that when we talk about the museums, we only talk about, the exhibition of the objects. But, we need to go further, in fact, because, the common people are interested to know more about, how the objects, can, lead us to the understanding about the contributions made by our ancestors. That is very important. That needs to be showcased also. And also, how the, archaeological data or ancient heritage is relevant even today. In South Asia, of course, it is so relevant that we are still living in different stages of maybe prehistoric or historical, life. So that, needs to be, also studied. So these are some of the important things. Capacity building is very important. We need to develop that capacity. And we should take help of, these experts from different parts of the country and outside. So that is also very, very important. And finally, I would like to tell that, if you want to protect and preserve the heritage of the country, not only Vadnagar, but maybe we can set the example at Vadnagar, that there should be participation of the local people. They have to come forward for the participation, for the preservation and protection of the site. And that will only, will make sure that such a vast heritage of the country of South Asia can be, preserved and protected. In fact, but the way, we have to make sure that the people are properly educated, they are made aware about the importance of the heritage. Also, we need to do a lot of community archaeology, how this kind of works will help the communities, local communities, how we can help them, in fact, in developing their craft, reviving their craft, and how, this will generate maybe a lot of economic, benefits for these people. That also needs to be studied. So unless that is done, perhaps, we will not be able to protect, the sites. The ASI, state governments are doing very well work. but they have limitations. They have got maybe some maybe limitations on resources, on personnel. But unless the common people are involved in that, perhaps we will not be able to do justice to the ancient sites. So this is very, very important for the posterity. So again, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your keen observations and also the important suggestions with us. I now request Srimati V. Vidyavati, IS, Director General, Archaeological Survey of India, to deliver her special address.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais and in the auditorium. It's a great honor, sir, and a privilege to be a part of the deliberations on over the last 3 days. I have not been able to be there, but I have been following what has been happening here. The discussions have been extremely interesting and I should say very, very thought-provoking. Professor Shinde has already captured the essence of what was discussed here. I just wanted to slightly digress from that and put a couple of points out here for all of you, the academics, the professionals, the people from Vadnagar, and all of us together to kind of deliberate. So there is a saying, I think Professor Gala was mentioning he's from Amravati, so I just want to pick on that. There's a saying in South India, in Telugu, some of you are Telugu speaking or no Telugu, that if you cook rice in a pot, and if you want to know whether the rice is cooked, you just need to pick out one grain from that. And that is absolutely representative of the quality of cooking in the pot. To me, sir, Vadnagar is one such site. It's a complete representation of what our ancient heritage, what our ancient culture has been. And I think the beauty of the site is that it has everything from the esoteric to the mundane. You have religion, you have trade, you have art, you have culture, you have everything coming together. And I think that to me is a very, very interesting phenomenon which emerged over the last decade or so when excavations are happening and are still happening on site. Nature has played a very, very huge role in human evolution. And over millions of years, I think we as humans, we have learned to what I say the 4 C's. We either conquer nature or try to conquer, we try to control, we try to coexist, or we try to compromise. I mean, these are the 4 things we end up doing with nature. I think in Vadnagar, what we see is a mix of all. The water bodies, the fact that it has been a seismic zone, and the fact that this has been a continuously inhabited site. This is an absolutely interesting example of how humans have learned to live with nature, yet coexist, compromise, conquer, control, did everything there, and continue as a habitation. I think that is a huge learning which we should be keeping that at the back of our minds. I did talk about, sir, the importance of narratives over tea when we had a break in the morning session. I always, since the audience has got a lot of archaeologists, I am trying to be a bit provocative. A lot of times it is said that the most difficult job for an archaeologist is to actually get into a trench and pull out and, come up with an excavation, come up with a structure, come up with an artifact, and come up with a finding. I think more difficult for the archaeologist is to present a narrative of that. Taking out, excavating is the easier part. I think the more difficult part is how do you build a narrative of that? How do you present the site? Because I think somebody did mention in the morning, there was a question also, you've excavated something, you've dug something, you've done something there. 20 years down the line, how will our future see that? How will they understand what that site was all about? Therefore, sir, the critical part, I think, as ASI, as a community, as I think citizens of a country which values and cherishes its heritage, I think it's extremely important that we focus on narratives as much as we focus on the actual work we do. Last but not the least, sir, this entire importance about intangibles. Now, in our enthusiasm to bring out a structure, in our enthusiasm, rightly placed so, to bring out something, we probably don't look at intangible heritage and the intangible component associated with the excavation as much. I think that is a very, very important link we should not forget. Sir, our entire history is based on oral tradition. I mean, we put a lot of importance on shared memories, on shared traditions, and intangible plays a huge part in that. Therefore, I would request the academics here, the archaeologists here, all of us sitting here, that we should be focusing on the intangible heritage of Vadnagar as much as we focus on the tangible heritage of what has come down to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your special note and also the important suggestions. Now, with utmost respect, I would like to request Shri Pankaj Kumar, Chief Secretary, Government of Gujarat, to kindly deliver the valedictory address. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar. I welcome Srimati V. Vidyavati, Director General ASI, Sri Ashwani Kumar, Principal Secretary, Professor Amerswar Gala, UNESCO Chair and Mentor ANU, Professor Robin Covington, Professor and VC of the Deccan College, Professor, Department of Archaeology, Durham University and UNESCO Chair, Professor Vasant Sinde, who presented before us the wrapping up of 2.5-day proceedings, Sri Pankaj Sharma, all delegates, academicians, researchers, speakers, participants, and friends from media. Heartiest welcome from Government of Gujarat. As you are very well aware, this international conference on Vadnagar has been organized as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And this has been organized in collaboration between Ministry of Culture, Government of India, and the state government. The rich heritage of India, and we are one of the oldest civilizations. It is a confluence of diverse religions, traditions, customs, and highlights of which are today reflected and can be witnessed through the rich treasure of our art, architecture, monuments, food, language, etc. Before I begin, and this I will reiterate, I had spoken in the inaugural session also, I want to thank our Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, from the bottom of my heart, for his visionary approach towards laying greater focus on preserving and conserving built heritage across the country. Our Honorable Prime Minister has always shown keen interest in this subject and has strongly supported research in the field of archaeology. It is only under his visionary leadership and guidance that we could all confer today on this important subject of archaeology at a platform of international level. As a result of his guidance and support, we had a grand inaugural session here, of which most of you had participated under the leadership of Sri Bhupendra Patel ji, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, the Union Minister for Culture, our Youth and Sports and Culture Minister. Now, before I begin, I must thank my Department of Sports, Youth and Culture to organize this successful event. You know, so many dimensions, the identification of the topics, getting the right kind of speakers, preparing the content, and so on and so forth. And I think all of you will agree with me that it has been a successful conference. Both in terms of its deliberations, in terms of its quality, in terms of its content, as well as in terms of logistics. After this formal conference will be over, maybe after this session, this is the last session, then a visit has been organized to Vadnagar. I invite all of you to come to Vadnagar. Just to see for yourself that you have discussed here since last 3 days. How many of you who are present here have been to Vadnagar earlier? Well, around say 20%. And how many of you knew about Vadnagar, of all those who visited there, to the extent you now know? So perhaps you know more now. So that is the success of the conference. So a deep gratitude to all the speakers, all the participants, and large participation of over 2,500 people, 6 themes on which you have given so much detail, and it has been successful. It began on International Museum Day. So lot of factors really contributed, and finally your active participation. For me, if I have to see what is Vadnagar, and if I have to speak in one sentence, what first comes in my mind is that Vadnagar as a town, it depicts a celebration of humankind's resilience through history. If you have visited, if you are going to visit, you have heard how a civilization could survive over such a long period of time against all variations of nature. And this is what Vadnagar has shown us, and it's a big celebration what we have Vadnagar today before us. Multiple dimensions, you participated into all these themes. It's a multi-dimensional, and what DGASI also said, it's just one piece of rice and you can make whether it's properly cooked or not. So all dimensions of any civilization, be it a trade, commerce, religion, philosophy, architecture, everything, the water conservation, the latest technology of relevant at that point of time, everything that you find there. And what has also been told, that is very difficult for archaeologists to really create the narrative after the it's dug properly and you have all those relics and artifacts. So you are expert on that. And basically this creation of narrative is a multidisciplinary subject. You know, lot from the anthropology, lot from the historians, lot from the sociologists, you know. So it's perhaps, you know, next time, and in fact what we have decided, and I'm very happy to announce before you, that every year this Tanariri festival we organize at Vadnagar. Now, in the inaugural session itself, it was announced by the Honorable Minister of Culture, State from Government of India, about taking that festival to a much higher level. Now, we are going to add to that a new dimension, that this one-day conference on Vadnagar will become the integral part of Vadnagar Utsav. So now Vadnagar Utsav will be of 3 days, of one dedicated day will be this conference. And now you have realized, and you were always aware, that this sort of conference really takes our objective to a much higher dimension. And these MOUs, which have been signed today in front of all of you, and this sort of collaboration being such a difficult subject, this sort of collaboration, different universities working on different aspects. So all put together will really give us a lot of breakaways in coming days and coming years. For Government of Gujarat, Vadnagar, we are intending to make a place where people from all over the country and from abroad, they come, they witness the rich cultural heritage of this place. Experiential museum is going to be developed there, and there are very few rare sites in India where after the excavation is allowed to remain open. Because it's a big challenge, a lot of weathering effects and then how to preserve the exposed excavations. But then our archaeologists, ASI, they are working with a vision whereby the excavation will be kept open. And you can, and in future people can visit there and they can experience the era which existed 2,500 years ago. Then we are going to create a museum for music, because this place is associated with Tanariri, and it has a very, very rich tradition of music. So that is going to be unique in India, a museum dedicated to music also. And then there are a lot of developments which will happen. Therefore, I again urge you to visit, preferably Vadnagar, this evening, else whenever convenient to you, and whenever any one of you present here at any given point of time intends and plans to visit Vadnagar, we will facilitate that. So with these words, on behalf of Government of Gujarat, I thank you all for your active participation. Thank you very much. Avjo.
Thank you, sir, for your address and also for the declaration of various important announcements for the historical town of Vadnagar. We appreciate them. We hereby announce the closing of the valedictory session and also announce the closing of the highly important 3 days of Vadnagar International Conference. We are though dispersing today, but we continue to take the learning of this conference further and do more on exploring, preserving, and showcasing the ancient and historical sites and places of Gujarat to the world. Thank you to the esteemed dignitaries on the dais and to the august audience. It was indeed our pleasure to have you all over here. Please, thank you once again, all the esteemed dignitaries, and especially our Chief Secretary of Government of Gujarat, who graced this wonderful valedictory session, and also for his special address. Thank you once again. And thank you, the audience, for participating in such a large number. We appreciate your gesture. Thank you very much. We request everyone to kindly join us for the lunch after we disperse. Thank you. This is Dhwani signing off. Goodbye and have a great weekend ahead.